Ammit? You know the term crocodile tears? Yeah, I finally found out where it came from. Because if I looked like this, I'd cry too. And just hope you don't have a heart attack when you encounter her. Because if you do, she's the one who gets to eat it. This fusion of a crocodile, lion, and hippo is Ammit, an ancient Egyptian deity slash demon. She hangs out in Duat with the other underworld guys, including Osiris, Anubis, and Thoth, and no, not that kind of thought. Anyway, Ammit is kind of like their pet. It's a golden rule in mythology that pets in the underworld should be creepy as hell. No pun intended. Forget pretty horses with wings. In the underworld, the uglier the better. It seemed Osiris couldn't decide what pet to get, so he took parts of the biggest man-eating animals in Egypt, and boom! Ammit was born. And her favorite chew toy? Human heart. I guess the underworld didn't give much thought on her name, because Ammit literally meant devourer of hearts. Someone probably asked, dude, that's it? That's her name? And then Ammit said, yep, Ammit. But she's more than just a pet, though. She acts like the Punisher, taking dibs on the hearts of humans who led sinful lives on Earth. Once you die, your heart would be weighed against the feather of Ma'at. If it's lighter, off you go to the field of reeds, where it's happy ever after. If it's heavier, your heart becomes Ammit's chew toy, and this will effectively delete all your chances of entering afterlife forever. How to win against it? Can't win in a one-on-one fight. But you can save your heart if you're not a dick in life. Apophis. Imagine fighting a god on a nightly basis. Sounds exhausting, right? But not for Apophis. He's a hard worker, grinding every night to achieve his one and only dream, devouring Ra, the sun god. Why? So he and the rest of us won't ever wake up to the sound of the damn alarm clock ever again. Sounds hysterical, right? Apophis is a serpent deity who personifies chaos, darkness, and destruction. Meanwhile, Ra is the god of light and the sun itself. He's a total snack. Maybe that's why Apophis sees him as one. So now, his one and only job is to eat Ra and make sure to stop the sun from ever rising again. You see, every time the sun sets, Ra dies and rides a boat across the underworld. There, Apophis waits for him for a chance to actually do that one job, which is to squeeze the life out of Ra. Unfortunately for Apophis, Ra got a bunch of sidekicks to help him fight the giant noodle of terror. And if you're wondering who, oh, just a bunch of big-name gods like Bastet and Set. Set can cut up his own brother, but he'll set all of those aside to fight that one snake who can end the world in a snap. Anyway, eclipses are usually the sign that Apophis is almost winning. Fortunately, he never actually did. So good luck waking up for work tomorrow. How to win against it? I'm not sure, but maybe a flute and a basket will do some damage. Bennu Bird. Before Big Bird made it into Hollywood, he was an ancient Egyptian deity and had a wildly different stage name. Bennu Bird. Actually, nope, that wasn't him, sorry. My next jokes won't fly over your head, I promise. This is Bennu Bird, a mythological creature linked to rebirth, resurrection, and possibly copyright infringement, since the Phoenix may or may not have stolen his entire brand. Or, so Bennu B claims. Phoenix can't be reached for a comment regarding this issue. In Egyptian mythology, Bennu B played an important role. He was an early bird who started creation and helped out other gods like Ra, Atum, and Osiris. But if Bennu B helped out the gods, who created him? Well, basically, no one. He just said one day, "Let there be me," and he cracked out of existence. Like, seriously. In some stories, though, he didn't just rise with the sun. He was part of the sun. Well, sort of. Somehow he got separated from the sun god Ra's soul. So he just winged it from there. So when the universe was still just darkness and ocean, before time, before gods, before anything, Bennu flew alone over the endless waters. Until one day he'd had enough. He landed on a rock and shrieked so loud that everything started after that. Time, day, night cycles, basically creation itself. So next time someone tells you yelling solves nothing, just remind them a shriek from a random bird is why reality exists. So I'll try the same. Subscribe to my channel right now. If Bennu can birth a universe, surely a chicken can earn a like, am I right? Sphinx. Nope. I'm not talking about that wrinkly, hairless breed of terror that looks like a hand soaked in water. I meant the actual Sphinx, the one posing in front of the pyramid that's in desperate need for a nose job. And if you're wondering where his nose went, no one knows. As you can see, sphinxes are creatures with a human's head, a lion's body, and an eagle's wings. They usually guard tombs and treasures, But sometimes they like to moonlight as the Riddler. Their duties include terrorizing unlucky peasants in ancient Greece, hanging around crossroads, and trolling passerbys by asking riddles. And if you can't answer it right, you don't just fail, you get eaten. But while Sphinx is usually known for their sharp minds and sharp claws, they aren't always dangerous. You see, depending on the place, some sphinxes don't actively seek out to harm humans. Unlike their Greek counterparts, Egyptian sphinxes are pretty chill. It's the Greek ones you gotta watch out for. The riddle thing is honestly just their part-time job. Their main one is bringing plague and catastrophe to cities. Apparently, the only way to stop it is by giving the right answer. One guy actually did solve her riddle once, but instead of taking the L gracefully, the Sphinx got so mad that she yeeted herself off the cliff and died. Talk about being in denial. How to win against it. Knowledge of puns can go a long way. Don't panic and answer as calmly as possible. You might get lucky. Uraeus. Ever wondered what that snake thing is on the pharaoh's headdress? That, my friend, is the Uraeus, a mythical cobra standing on the pharaoh's head. Its purpose is to let everyone know who's the boss, of course. Uraeus isn't just a regular cobra. Not like normal venomous snakes are perfectly safe to put on your head, but this one's built different. Very different. You see, Uraeus doesn't spit venom. It spits a fire breath instead and keeps its aim straight at the pharaoh's enemies. Now, you know why it's on the top of the head. Doesn't matter if the pharaoh's short and stumpy. A direct hit on the enemy's skin is enough. Unless they have water, which would make the fire breath less effective, obviously. But why wear this thing on the head, though? I mean, why not just carry them around and swish them like a wand? Well, Uraeus is one part of the vulture-snake headdress combo, representing the cobra goddess Wajet from Lower Egypt. That cobra lady also rears and protects the pharaohs all their life. Even in death, she's still there. To breastfeed the pharaohs? I'm not even kidding. In any case, Uraeus is the pharaoh's head protector, in every sense of the word. Who knew that a bad breath is a powerful weapon? Actually, now that I think about it, it kind of is. How to win against it. Practice physical distancing. Sekhmet. Imagine being so unreasonably powerful that you nearly deleted the human race by accident. Now imagine the only way to stop you is with beer. That's Sekhmet. She's the goddess of war and medicine, vengeance and protection, plagues and healing, and, apparently, goddess of getting hammered. But before becoming a raging drunk, Sekhmet was actually known as the powerful one. With breath that summons desert storms and superpowers that bring diseases, Sekhmet makes Uraeus look almost cute. Naturally, she slayed at her job. So Ra, the sun god, ordered her to literally slay his enemies. So when humans started rebelling, he sent Sekhmet to Earth with a simple mission: punish the guilty. Instead, Sekhmet opened the group chat with, "New hobby, murder." She didn't just punish the guilty, she kept going. Towns, villages, farmers, non-subscribers, no one was safe. To stop her rampage, Ra and the other gods devised a brilliant plan. Pour beer on the lake, sprinkle it with red ochre, and lure Sekhmet into it. Because when you're an unstoppable force of rage, apparently your one weakness is not knowing what drinks look like. Thinking it was blood, Sekhmet pounced on the lake, drank it all, and became so drunk that she gave up on her slaughter and peacefully went back to Ra, probably too hungover to do any more damage. So yes, a beer a day literally keeps the massacre away, or whatever that saying is. How to win against her? Bring alcohol. A whole lake of it. Isfet. No, it's not hands, it's fet. Sorry, that was a bad one, I'll know. So, remember Apophis? You know, that snake guy who fights Ra the gods nonstop because he's a picky eater? Turns out he's not just a cranky noodle. He's the physical form of Isfet, the ancient Egyptian idea of pure chaos. In ancient Egypt, Isfet isn't necessarily a creature on its own. Instead, it's basically the very concept of disorder, chaos, and evil. It is the embodiment of everything that isn't nice, with injustice and violence being just the tip of a bottomless iceberg. Every negative thing you can think of, blame it on Isfet. It's one half of the dual forces that exist in the universe. On the other side is Ma'at, who embodies truth, order, harmony, morality, law, and justice. Isfet and Ma'at must learn to live inside their get-along shirt for all eternity, so the universe can exist just fine, perfectly balanced, as all things should be. But this balance generally means Ma'at should always come on top and keep Isfet at the bottom, which is pretty understandable, given Isfet is quite an unpleasant fellow. If Isfet were to rise, everything would be upside down. Everything decays, including humans, time, the gods, the earth, and even the Nokia 3000. In fact, the pharaoh's ultimate goal is to achieve Ma'at and keep Isfet at bay. But Isfet doesn't give up easily, so Apophis comes out to fight for her stead. Unfortunately for her, The power of friendship still wins in the end. How to win against it. You can't kill a concept, but you can recycle, meditate, and not commit crimes. Close enough. Serpopard. Egypt sure loves to mix things up. In this case, we got a serpent and a leopard in the house. And its name is, you guessed it, Steve. I'm kidding, it's actually Serpopard. Since nobody knows its real name, everyone just agreed on calling it Serpopard and somehow got away with it. As you guessed it, the Serpopard has the body of a leopard with the neck and head of a serpent. So, kind of like a giraffe, but instead of nibbling leaves, it bites your head off clean. Unlike other ancient Egyptian mythical creatures, there isn't much lore on Serpopards. We only saw them on artifacts like cosmetic palettes, cups, and bowls. What they do or what they came from, we don't exactly know. Some say they're just symbols of protection and royalty. Others believe that the Serpopard is not a mythical creature at all, but an extinct animal that existed during that time. Either way, the ancient Egyptians decided to draw them in the pharaoh's skincare kit. Can't blame them, though. Serpopard's got that drip. How to win against it? You're probably just seeing a giraffe or a camel. Stop snorting the coal. All right, folks, that concludes the list. So yeah, ancient Egypt was basically a mythology fever dream. And if you don't subscribe, I'm telling Sekhmet where you live.